We are live now, doctor.
Very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth module of Research Matrix. And today it's the Code of Review. And I know that review of literature is one of the most difficult things that at least I go through. I think personally, in a manuscript writing, review of literature is the toughest. And I'm glad that we have experts in the field to make this tough job very easy. And let me just welcome Dr. Sonal Kalia to please introduce the speakers for the day and the faculty for the day. So my screen is visible.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rolika, for organizing this excellent debate format. She's made it into the research matrix franchisee in itself. And we are glad to have the blessings of Dr. Vanati Murugesan ma'am, who's professor cornea cataract and refractive surgery. She basically needs no introduction as she's the editor-in-chief of IGO and in fact the first woman editor of IGO with such numerous number of publications to her credit and so many awards. So thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing time for this particular research metrics. And she's recently nominated council member for Acquisition Council of Ophthalmology as well. So thank you, ma'am, once again. And next, we have with us today Dr. Vivek Dave, sir, who's the head of the Anand Bajaj Retina Institute, LVPI. And he's also the adjunct professor, University of Rochester, New York, USA. As a alumnus from RP Center, AIMS, New Delhi, he has also done his fellowship in Vitruviana from LVPI, and he has been a board member, associate board member at APAO, and so many different societies as an editorial board member also with his LDP tenure at APAO. He is an excellent mentor to so many of us at YOSI. So thank you so much, sir, for finding time for the research metrics today. And next we have Dr. Sabyasachi Sen Gupta, sir, who again is one of those people who don't need any introduction in ophthalmology in India at least. He's a consultant vitreoretina and director and founder at Future Vision Eye Care, and he's also founder of the Sen Gupta's Research Academy. To his credit among his numerous publications is also that he's featured among the top 2% world scientists in Stanford 2024. And we are thankful for having his expertise with us in research metrics as well as YOSI both. So thank you, Sabyasachi, sir. And one of our invited speakers today is Dr. Pooja Khamar, who's consultant cataract, refractive and dry eye services at Narayana Nethralaya. She is a clinician and translation research scientist also at Narayana Nethralaya and the GROW Lab. She has done her PhD in wound healing and refractive surgery from Maastricht University, Netherlands, and she also has a fellowship in cataract optics refractive excellence with almost 90 to 100 publications in international peer-reviewed journals. She's also an invited faculty at so many conferences, and we are lucky to have her with us as one of the speakers today in the debate. So thank you, Dr. Pooja, for joining us. And we are also glad to have Dr. Nahia Jalbood, who is an international fellow of oculofacial plastic and reconstructive surgery at Shiley Eye Institute, USCD, California. She has done her med school and ophthalmology training at Beirut, Lebanon, and she has volunteered for several NGOs, including the Lions International, with her key area of interest being spatial computing and oculofacial plastic surgery. Thank you so much, Dr. Naya, for taking part in Young Ophthalmology Society of India, team research metrics presentation today. And next, we just have intros of our team left. Myself, I work at SMS Medical College, Jaipur in a small capacity. And along with me, consultant vitreoretina services at MMI Joshi, Hubli, India is Dr. Apurva Ayajit, who has done her ophthalmology residency from GMEC. Dr. Rolika Bansal, who is a research fellow currently at Oculofacial Reconstructive Surgery, also at USCD, San Diego, California. She has been a fellow with Dr. Santosh Honawar, sir, Dr. Ayushi, who's a consultant of ophthalmic plastic surgery at Nanda Deep Eye Hospital and PG Teaching Institute, Kolhapur, Sangli. She has also done her fellowship from LVPI. And Dr. Anujit, who's assistant professor at Ramakrishna Mission Seva Pratishthan, WIMS, Kolkata. And that makes our team from YOSI side for the research metrics. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and all the best to both the speakers and the entire panel for today's program.
Thank you, Dr. Sonal, for introducing everyone. And more than that, we are very lucky that everybody was able to spare the time to join. And we promise that in 1 hour, we will try our level best to make the difficult topic of review of literature easy through their expertise. Now, to begin with, the pattern that we have for the modules is that we start a little bit with the debate. The debate is between Dr. Jalboot and Dr. Khamar. So it's about AI is the game changer when it comes to review of literature. Now, it's very ironical that we have chosen the two experts in the field for this because Dr. Nahia right now is really doing groundbreaking work in terms of AI. I can see her outside of OR and in the OR as well. So she happens to be the great person for this topic. And Dr. Kamar has published extensively on this topic. And I know it's a little difficult for her to show the against perspective, but I think you're unstoppable. So there's not going to be a problem there. So over to Dr. Nahia. And please share your screen. So she will be talking on for the topic. That means she is advocating for AI for review of literature. So many of us face this trouble that should we use AI or not? And she's going to show the perspective of yes, it is a game changer and how we should go ahead with it. So over to you, Dr. Nahia. Your screen was visible that time. It was perfect. Now it has actually stopped.
Okay, can everyone see my screen
Yeah.
now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. So I'll be the one rooting for the use of AI in literature review. So I have no financial disclosures. So as we all know, and as Dr. Bansal mentioned earlier, that literature review provides a solid base to any research project, whether it's in the terms of formulating a unique, meaningful research question, selecting an adequate study design, analyzing the data within the context and comparing it to pre-existing data, and inferring whatever conclusion we obtain to the generalized population. And as all of you are researchers and already know that traditional literature review has become increasingly time-consuming and complex because we have an exponentially increasing number of academic publications. We have so many engines and libraries to skim through. And as healthcare professionals and clinicians at the same time, we have extremely busy schedules. We get a lot of research ideas, but it's often hard for us to translate these ideas into actual papers and publications. So shifting slightly to the role of AI in healthcare in general. So as AI has been revolutionizing a lot of fields, it's been playing a very important role in healthcare recently, whether it's in diagnostics, surgical management, enhancement of the healthcare system workflow, and medical education and healthcare and professionals training, healthcare professionals training. So why not integrate AI in research to generate publications more efficiently? So we can actually find a role in AI in all steps of the research process, not necessarily in the literature review only. So it can first help us with the research question formulation. It can help us to identify the research gaps, to find more meaningful and contributory research questions. It can help us to identify publications that are redundant or have similar hypotheses and testing them. The literature we have, and it can help, of course, with the literature review per se. So first, by the search, there are a lot of AI-based search engines that cover multiple databases. They function through different processes. Most of them are ontology-based. And the power of AI is that it not only can play a role in searching for the data, but processing the data as well and processing the information. It can help eliminate a lot of research biases, including the false positives that we encounter whenever we're looking for a term that can describe different concepts and not necessarily related to the research topic. It can help to eliminate the researcher confirmation bias, where the research queries may be based on the researcher's pre-existing beliefs on certain topics and construct names. And as Google and other more classic research engines, it will eliminate the bias that we obtain whenever we see the citation and the usage-based results first, and the ones that are less used or less read last. It can help with the screening, and this is very significant when we talk about the systematic review. So we have to skim through a big number of publications. Usually during the first round, we eliminate the stuff that are more clearly irrelevant and so on. So this is the step where AI can really help us as well. It can just help us get rid of the papers that are clearly not related to the research topic. And then we can save more energy for us to go through the second round, which is more restrictive and where we have to go through the papers that are neither black or white, but rather in the gray zone. It can potentially also play a role in the data analysis and interpretation. This might be easier in health sciences and basic sciences compared to behavioral sciences and social sciences, but a lot of research has been done on that, and we have been having some positive results. And finally, in the writing process, which I think everyone uses by now, is whenever it helps us to assist, it assists us in writing, text, expanding the text, predictive text, auto-completion, correction, checking the grammar and the vocabulary, integrating visual and multimedia elements like graphs and presentations, switching the tone of the paper, and this might be very helpful, especially for the young and beginner researchers. We all acknowledge that it does have some limitation and challenges. This is a relatively new technique, and I will leave it to Dr. Kamar to discuss the limitations of it. But it's very important to acknowledge that this is not a perfect tool, and a lot of work needs to be done to fine-tune it. So the thing is that the more we use it, the more the technology will improve, whether by more extensive machine learning training or by using more processing power in the future. I came across this paper, which is a very nice systematic review that goes over some of the publications that have been made in terms of using AI in writing and research. What I really like about this paper is that it did show both the positives and the negatives of using AI in research and how it can help in the different steps of the research making. It definitely has a lot of limitations, but it shows very promising results in the future, especially after the fine-tuning. So AI is already playing a major role in the advancement of different fields, notably healthcare. It can potentially empower researchers in generating scholarly publications. It's very important to know, and this is something we hear very often, AI will never replace researchers. AI will never replace healthcare workers. So it is not a replacement of a researcher's mind. It's rather a tool that they can use to become more efficient. And it's never about the technology itself. It's about how we use it. Ironically, I came across this flyer that was published by the American University of Beirut promoting the AI and data science online program professional diploma. And it states something that we've been hearing a lot. So AI will replace certain professionals, certain jobs. So AI will never replace you, but someone who knows AI will. So it's very important to hop on the trend and become acquainted with it and help it develop to become actually efficient. I would like to thank my UCSD family. This is just a picture of us getting together during a course that we hosted last February. And luckily, with the help of the fellows and a big team, including Dr. Bansal, we'll be able to hold this event next year around the same time. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naya, for your perspective on AI. And you have put across the point that AI is definitely a game changer, and that you should think about perfecting AI in fine-tuning the review of literature. So now I request Dr. Kamar to come and give her limitation and perspective that is against the point of AI as a game changer.
So I would like to thank the entire YOSI committee, Rolika and Sonal, for having me here. I think my co-debater Naya has already made it very clear that how AI has its plus points in review of literature, but she also said that there is a limitation. So the topic here was AI in literature review. Is it just a tool? Is it a game changer? And I am asked to say that it's not a real game changer. So I'll just speak about why it's not. So you have to understand 4 points when it comes to AI in literature review. That what do you have to ask these questions about? It comes, is it reshaping or just rephrasing? Is it insight or only automation? Does it give us prediction or perception? And are you looking at speed or over substance? So this is the 4 questions you have to ask when it comes to AI. So AI in literature.
Sorry, but I think your screen is not visible.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can reshare the screen.
It was visible.
Yeah, it was visible to begin with.
Okay.
Yes,
Even
perfect.
I could see her slides too. Yeah.
Now it's okay. Yeah.
So you have to ask questions in this way: that are you trying to reshape or just rephrase using AI? Are you trying to get some insights, or are you just trying to look at automation when it comes to literature review or review of literature? Or are you trying to predict something or give a perspective when it comes to literature review? Or are you looking at just speed, or you're looking at substance also when it comes to literature review? So literature review is all about substance, perception, insight, and reshaping, whereas AI is about the other 4. So this is a very senior colleague of ours who's just recently, just yesterday, shared this on AI on Facebook platform, where he has had this chat with AI, and he's trying to ask AI whether AI will eventually have emotions or able to replace humans. And the summary of this is that it is going to get better with time, like how my colleague said, but it's never going to replace a human when it comes to doing any such activity what a brain can do. So when it comes to review of literature also, it is both biological, your thinking, and you also need artificial systems to process the information. But your brain is going to give you some consciousness, some awareness, which involves thoughts, emotions, and intent, which is always required for literature review. So it is not just about knowing words, but it is also about knowing science. And you have to understand whether you are trying to summarize the literature review or you're trying to synthesize a process or information. So AI, if when it comes, it's just an advanced language processor. It only predicts patterns, cannot truly understand the important points, will not give any nuance to the findings, and AI does not interpret. You have to exactly ask a question of what you want, and that is what AI will tell. But if you tell AI to think, it is going to be a superficial thinking and not a deep thinking. So that's why you have to, AI cannot replace your contextual in understanding, your nuances recognition, or your narrative thinking. And when it comes to doing a literature review, AI is just looking at the tip of iceberg, but it cannot mimic science. It is based on frequency based analysis. It does have a lack of study hierarchy understanding, and it has the ability to detect the flawed methodology. And it also fabricates studies and citations. Sometimes it just overlooks at the facts of the paper. It fails to verify the PubMed indexing. It fails to verify the DOIs. And there is at times it misleads with confident jargon. So AI hallucinates literally at times when it comes to literature review. I'm not saying all the time, but most of the time, especially when it comes to advanced literature review. So you have to keep in mind what you are technically asking. And this is again a recent article which does suggest that AI has been known to hallucinate, to provide factually incorrect responses at times, especially with the older softwares. If you do not have a paid software as well, it has been known to hallucinate. So you have to be very knowledgeable, and any information AI gives you, you have to recheck it whether it's true or not, and you have to go and do the study. The second flaw is the database is only updated till 2023, and you do have to have an access to internet, but there is no live access to the internet, and there is no real-time data. So there is another flaw which is involved with the review of literature. And whenever you're doing the review of literature, you have to look at an article which was published yesterday or last week or last month. So that is another flaw, that it is an outdated knowledge. So you can use AI, but anything after 2023, you have to look into it as by your own. There is also a black box, and there are AI model limitations with data issues, algorithmic biases, and access to restriction of data. There is seminal work which are behind the paywalls of this AI. Another thing which AI is doing for us, including myself, is, and the question we have to ask to ourselves is, are we losing the joy of learning? Because when you tell AI to do something, it is just something like you're not doing any footnote chasing, you're not having any marginal notes, you're losing the nuances and the serendipity of discovering something new while reading the paper, the experience of joy of finding something new while reading a paper, while doing a review of literature is being lost as well. So more than anything, it does give you a lot of information, but we do lose joy of learning. And it is a threat to our critical thinking. So we have to know where to use AI and where not to use AI if we truly want to build. We are kind of becoming robots when it comes to AI. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to become robots or not? Or we want to become critical readers and find out the true answer. Also, it is known that when it comes to review of literature or writing your manuscripts, there is a definite lack of plagiarism check, and there is a lot of plagiarism which is involved. So that again, you have to make the efforts all your own. So what I would suggest is let AI suggest you papers, read it, but just don't let it write your thesis or give your talk or defend you at your viva. That is still your job, even when it comes to review of literature. And let human intelligence be the driving seat and not an AI. So I was just, before the webinar started, I asked the two questions to AI. Are you going to replace humans when it comes to doing reviews or review of literatures? So answer was AI will not replace human reviewers in high impact journals, but reviewers who use AI will probably replace those who don't, as my colleague said. So she already made that very clear. When it comes to review of literature, AI is your research assistant, not your co-author. It has great efficiency and structure, but humans are essential for insight, judgment, and originality. So to summarize, the future of literature review isn't AI alone. It's an AI empowered by human insight. I hope I did it well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for keeping both the perspectives. In fact, the best part is that both the speakers have kind of defended the other side at the end of their talks. So Dr. Nahia was supporting the limitations and challenges, and so was Dr. Kamar supporting it in the end. So I agree with both of you, rather. And I was just wondering if the faculty members, Dr. Vanati, Dr. Vivek sir, and Dr. Sabyasachi sir, would you like to give a rebuttal on their talk? Vanati ma'am, would you like to say something?
I think Vivek is ready. Over to you, Vivek, and Sabyasachi. I'll come in last. Yeah.
I just felt, see, I'm no expert in AI. Let me be very frank. I think I am taught more by my fellows than what I know. So it's reached a stage where you ask them a question on the rounds, you go in to see a patient, come out, and they're ready with the answer because their chat GPT the answer. So I feel as of right now, maybe AI is good to give you a jump start if you have a thought block as to where I start from or what could be the points on which I should build or what could be the leads in literature on which I should start working. I myself have attempted to use AI for reviews, and at least I don't know if I was searching it the wrong way, but my experience has been that whatever comes out is very little. It really does not span the whole literature of the topic that you would have suggested to it. So I think if you are lost, you don't know what is the start point. It's a good lead to take, and then let the human being in you take over and analyze appropriately and get out all the potential references. You may then finally also run it through AI to see if you have missed something. But that would be my take. I think it has a lot to catch up as far as the human input is concerned in this sort of academic activity.
Right. So, I agree with you. In fact, I remember the times when it was so easy to remember phone numbers because we did not have mobile phones at hand. I remember even now, I remember my friends' phone numbers from childhood because, I mean, that was the only way to go. But now that we have phone numbers, for mobiles, phones storing the phone numbers, we don't really recall them the same way. The same thing is probably for AI when when we have a tool to identify the review of literature, specifically over here, or anything related to research, probably we are not putting in our true insight into it the way we would otherwise. And the pointers we would learn while doing so, we might not catch up on those because somebody else is reviewing it. This is just an opinion add on to Dr. Kamar's perspective. But over to Dr. Sabyasachi, sir, for what would you like to rebuttal with it?
So I kind of agree and disagree because we are in a debate. So it really depends on what you are exposing yourselves to, and are you using the paid version or not? And so if you have ChatGPT in your mind when you're going through this presentation and these discussions, then you have a myopic view of things because things have moved far, far beyond ChatGPT. First and foremost, if you're using in the paid version of ChatGPT, it is totally different from the free version of ChatGPT. And now we are in the phase where we are having specialized AI. We are going to call them bots. They're now chat bots. So we're going to have specialized AIs which are actually going to be based on ChatGPT. So companies are taking ChatGPT and training it to do XYZ things. So we're going to have specialty AI tools for literature review. I'll give you one example. That's called AS Review. AS Review. It's based on Python, and I've done some beta testing for it. And all of you can actually use it. It's free. It's from the Netherlands, and it will, basically the pain points for systematic reviews is going through like 1,000 papers. But then AS Review will shorten it down to not 1,000 days, but like 10 days. So then that really cuts down your effort, the pain point of actually getting those articles. There are many others, say, for example, there is something called Site, SCIT, Site.ai. There is something called SciSpace, which will improve your, your reviewing of papers that Vivek was talking about. It will improve your reviewing of papers incredibly well. So if I show you some of my, I can actually do a live demo as well. So it will integrate with your browser. And as soon as you open a paper, it will say chat with the paper. You may not have the full text, but it has access to the full text. So you can actually ask it questions. Say your results are, say I have so much resistance to Pseudomonas. What does this paper say? You don't even have to read it. It'll just give you, the bang on report. And some of it may not be in the abstract, and you'll say, "Kahan se mila?" But, it will say, "Oh, it's there in the paper." So you can actually chat with papers and get only that what you need out of those. So that's, so there are multiple AIs which are now coming up. Systematic review is the best one, is called Elicit. So I've given you 3-4 actionable names. So, it really depends on what you are exposing yourselves to, like I said. Another example outside this purview of reviews is, so if you have a table or even an Excel, you can upload that table and say, and you can tell a particular AI, can you write the results for me based on these tables? And bang, you have it. So a lot of things are evolving pretty fast. So if you are not using AI today, you are going to get left behind. And, so also let AI be something which will improve your communication skills, not replace your communication skills, but improve your communication skills, but dramatically reduce the amount of work that you can, so like I can work on 3 separate papers at the same time today. Instead of doing one at a time and spending a whole month on it, I would do like 3 papers a month now, instead of 1 paper in 3 months, so your productivity will go up a long way. So, it really depends, like I said, on what you are exposing yourselves to. And if you are able to exploit the full potential of these bots, and then, then sky is the limit.
That is very true, Dr. Sengupta, sir. I agree with this point that we have to understand where we can use AI. It's not about using AI for everything. It's like having an assistant that, okay, if I have so much work, if you're writing a paper maybe in like say 10 hours, now you can do it faster in 4 hours with the same precision, which is but with the correct utilization of AI in a more ethical way and an organized way. Another interesting thing which I learned probably just yesterday when I was having a discussion about a software that I was programming. So the person told me that AI actually has to pay for every single command or prompt they receive. So there has to be a level where whenever we are communicating with AI, we must think that somebody is actually paying for it. Right now, they are in backlog of payment. So it's a very big deal, which is going to be coming out soon about it, that every prompt, even a thank you or a please, has an amount to it that the company is paying. So when you're using a paid version of it, then you kind of are paying for it. But when you're using the unpaid version of it, you're not paying for it. Therefore, the results are also altered, as Dr. Sabyasachi sir said. So thank you for that perspective, sir. Anything that the speakers would like to say before we move on to our next segment for the experts? Because AI is just a part of our review of literature. We have more to go. So let me go ahead and share the screen for our scenarios. So just to brief you all, that we will be talking about, my screen is visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
So
no.
we will just be talking about the different scenarios. Now, the concept of this session is that we give a hypothetical situation to our expert faculties, and then we ask what would they do in this particular situation. So my first question is to Dr. Vanati ma'am. So you have seen an association of infective fungal keratitis by a rare XYZ species of fungus in patients with corneal dystrophies. And I know that Dr. Vanati, you have a very nice paper on it. So you have seen an association, but now what would you do? How would you begin the review of literature on this? Like when you have seen, you have understood there's an association, you have a very large, probably say case series of 15 patients. And how do you know the endpoint of literature research over here? And will you consider Google Scholar as well, or only Medline database? Now we have moved from the world of AI, we are in a real world. Now, what would you say, Dr. Vanati ma'am? Over to you.
Okay. First and foremost, I think I would now look at what am I going to add on to the existing knowledge on this particular condition. So what is new in what I want to communicate to my readers here? So that's going to be, is it really worth the time of my review or of the target audience which I'm going to be taking by writing out something? So that's something, that's an important question before you start writing out anything at whatever level or category you're probably looking at here. So to look at this particular scenario, you're looking at a particular infection in corneal dystrophies here. So first, that particular dystrophy, is it actually prone to recurrent erosions, which is a predisposing factor for infection here? So probably yes, so that's why this is cotton infection here. So when you start with an introduction for this particular thing, so your review of literature will pertain to the aspects which you're going to be writing when you're writing your case report. So the first, it's going to be introduction here. So you're going to start with an introduction of why probably infection is going to occur in a particular dystrophy, where you're normally not going to see infection in almost, in say, at least 70% of your dystrophy cases here. So introduction is going to pertain to that particular part. So your ROL would be related to that, and there might be innumerable articles on this particular, but you will probably need to pick out the key ones or the ones which are probably the main important aspects or which are going to be talking. So sometimes here, a very recent review of literature on this particular subject or something which was path-breaking in this aspect could be cited when you're looking at a review of literature for the introduction here. Then you would go on to see what are the similar cases which already exist in this particular scenario you're going to be talking about here. So if you already have, say, you've said rare here, so which means that you do not have anything, but if you already have some, then how is your case going to be different from what others have told? So do you have some experience or do you have some knowledge which the others have not reported here? So here, adding on a table of review of literature and saying what were their inferences or what were their outcomes and how your outcome and how your result and your management was probably different and how that adds on to the knowledge of a person who's particularly interested in this field will be the next aspect. Then you probably, it's the routine of writing down your methodology and writing down your results and writing down or discussing all the relevant investigations, all the relevant, if you've done a surgery, if you've got a histopathology, if you've done a confocal, so all those relevant pictures of good quality and good legends and a good description comes on to next. And then you move on to a brief discussion here where you're going to be summarizing all the review of literature which you have discussed here. So I think I would still pertain to coming to your question. If you look at Google Scholar does take in a lot of other non-index literature as well here. It also gives you or helps you to club together that which is there in books other than just journals as well. So you will need to look at and see what is important or what's contributing to the particular subject you are writing about here. I usually don't look at Medline database these days here, but then if you have something which is going to add on to your literature by these, yes, you could go ahead. And if you are looking at PubMed literature, something like this is going to be a very, very niche audience, like maybe only Cornea is going to take it up and other journals are going to say, okay, please take it to Cornea. We are not pertaining to this particular, because it's too much of a super specialty or a subspecialty which is being looked at or which is being discussed. So that's how you go around, or that's how you put in your thought. And I think it does take a while before your write-up really takes a good shape, before it can really hit the portal for submission.
I agree, Vanti ma'am. I think you've given very important pointers. And as you said that it takes time before it hits the portal. I think every time I read a paper that I've written, I land up changing everything about it.
Mm.
So by the time I'm done with the third reading, it looks completely new. And I completely agree with your pointers. And I would ask you that what is your basic technique of review? Like when you are doing the review of literature, do you have multiple tabs open, or you prefer to
Yes.
download those articles and highlight them? How do you do it?
Yeah. Um, I do use multiple tabs if I'm sitting in one place and I'm having a net connectivity for a long period of time. But then say, for example, I'm going to go on a long flight for 2.5 to 3 hours, then I would not want to waste my net on. So then I didn't put in several mesh terms out there. So one is a broad term. So for example, if I'm going to say lattice dystrophy, and I take out lattice dystrophy, it's thousands of articles which I'm going to use. And that's probably going to pertain to my introduction part of it here. So I will then pick out the key aspects of that. And if I'm looking at fungal infection and lattice dystrophies, that would lead to my next window, which I'll be looking at. And then that would help to describe what are all the described fungal infections. Is there any difference in the way they are presenting? What is the time and duration? How were they managed? And what were the outcome of these? And then you move on to this particular new fungus in a lattice dystrophy, probably I'm describing. Has it already been described in other virgin corneas or corneas which didn't have any pathologies here? So that's going to be my next aspect here. So I'm going to put in keywords for those. So that's when I have multiple tabs, and I do tend to download these literatures and put them into Word files here. That as and when, and I do like reading it. Even if you say AI is going to help you, I always believe that the more you read, your review literature is something which really enhances the depth of knowledge in a particular subject here. And it's nothing like it here. And that's something which I really do miss these days, because the time you spend on your review of literature, the time you take to read your review of literature and interpret certain aspects of what you want to know is something which AI cannot replace. So that's where a human interface probably is helped by an AI here. But I still feel the old school works well here.
Right. I do agree, ma'am, that when we are doing the review of literature for writing a review for the readers, we land up enhancing our knowledge. And I think that's the whole essence of it. It's about providing while gaining something out of it. And I mean, that's the biggest asset. And while we are communicating with you, I have one short question for you as the editor of IGO. When people make publications, when they write a review article, sometimes they land up putting images from the previously published articles. Do you think that's allowed? Like in making their review article, they have incorporated images from the other articles with or without giving courtesy. But is that permitted?
See, one is when you are doing a review, a person who does a review is a person who's probably already an authority or a person who's had extensive depth of knowledge in that particular field. That's when I would say that it is and it is commonplace to get your fellows to start writing a review. And then when the younger ones do write, they do land up with a lot of plagiarism because they do not probably have a good insight into the way research writing has to be done. So hence, review articles tend to have a very high plagiarism index here because you know that most of it has been copied from other articles rather than putting in your perspectives after reading a group of articles which pertain to the same subject here. When you look at pictures, it's always best to have your own original pictures here. And that's about what adds on a lot of value to the review you are writing here. But that said, suppose it's a very rare condition you're looking at. For example, let's say I'm writing on a review on various aspects of pediatric keratoconus. Not everybody would have pictures of brittle cornea syndrome here. Okay, so that's something which very few of us, even after being in decades in cornea practice, you would not have seen a brittle cornea syndrome here. So then you are probably justified to talk to the author and use a picture with adequate acknowledgement or have the citation or the references put in the way the journal requires, from where you're taking permission. Your publisher has particular norms of describing how these permissions will have to be taken and how they have to be worded in the legends when you are acknowledging when you're using other people. So when it's for a rare condition, when it's for something which is that it's infrequent, it's rare, you're probably justified. But with something very commonplace, and it's very sad to say, very recently I did have one, I think an interesting retina report here, and when he said, please provide us with better quality images, the author just went to a prior report of a similar condition, cropped the images and submitted the same. And that was very sad. And that was a very young, budding retina fellow. So it's very sad that sometimes people do not have the adequate insight of how they have to approach something very basic and something which is supposed to be part of your ophthalmology training when you're doing a postgraduate. We all did not become cataract surgeons overnight. We taught ourselves to do cataract surgery. So it's something like that, teaching ourselves to do research with the right approach, with the right perspective, with the right ethics, adopting the right ethics is something which is the need of the hour today.
Thank you, Dr. Vanity. You've actually put all 4 of our modules together till now and put 4 codes of ethics, like all the codes together in one sentence. And it's important. And this question came from, because recently I was reviewing an article where the author had incorporated images from a previous article in a review article. So, and thanks for clarifying that. And I hope it helps everyone. Moving on to the next question for Dr. Vivek, sir. So the question would be, Ayushi, would you like to take the question?
Hi, Rolika.
Hi.
Can you move the screen?
Yeah, sure. There you go. Yeah.
Yes. So, Dr. Vivek, you are writing an article on a particular drug, ABC, for diabetic retinopathy. And when you search on PubMed, you see more than 4,000 articles which are written on intravitreal for diabetic retinopathy. So, how would you go about filtering these? And what is your thought process? And the other question that I wanted to ask you is, how do you decide between whether you want to write a systematic review or a narrative review or a scoping review? How do you decide that?
Thanks, Ayushi. So this is something that is not uncommon, especially when the topics are as broad as, say, diabetic retinopathy. You would have articles of all shapes and sizes looking at therapies in different ways. So now, when you have zeroed down on your topic as, say, a particular drug for diabetic retinopathy, I think we also need to go by, say, levels of evidence. A lot of these articles might be case reports, small case series. So in this situation, when there are thousands present, I would like to filter them out with respect to what are the type of articles that I'm dealing with. And you should look at articles which are showing you randomized trials or comparative studies, prospective ones, retrospective large series, I would say in that order. So it would be important to bring this subset down because 4,800 articles, it is like, nearly impossible, point one, to go through all of them. Point two, high chances a lot of them have repeat information. It's likely to be the same information getting churned back again. So this is how I would approach. I would break it down and just look at the major articles that are written on that particular drug. And when you are looking at a particular drug, you would want to again classify the articles like those who are just those which are just giving you a descriptive information on that drug, and also say something where you are having that drug being compared to something which is the current gold standard in management. That way, you would get a perspective of the specific drug in general, and you would also get an idea of whether there have been studies of that drug being used against other specific drugs. So that I think is the crux of it. All said and done, when you have I would say literature in the form of small case reports. Those are very anecdotal ones. And when you have absolute anecdotal case reports, you really cannot take out something which is to the clinic takeaway message from such articles. So break it down, just use large articles, big articles, retrospective studies, large case series to create your review article. Case reports, I would look at only if there is something which is absolutely different. So, say the drug has been used in a diabetic retinopathy in a very rare sort of a scenario, or something which has given a dramatic response which is not in sync with general literature opinion in the general sense. In that situation, I might pick up a case report and still quote it, but otherwise steer away from anecdotal reports. Second part of your question as to where would you look at a systematic review and where will you look at a narrative review. So first thing is to try and distinguish these two terms. A systematic review, I would say, is more structured. It is something which is I would say a more rigorous way of answering a research question. And in this, you require to have a very good critical appraisal of all the studies that you have included. When you take in contrast a narrative review allows for a very broad interpretation, or it's more of something which is exploratory in nature. It may not follow a very rigorous pattern. So when to decide as to whether you would be doing a systematic review or you would be doing a narrative review, I would say in situations where a lot of very specific literature is available on a particular drug. So you have a chunk of prospective studies, you have very well planned and very well executed randomized studies. That is the time you should look at doing a systematic review. In fact, I would say a step ahead. If you have a good number of such studies, you should also go ahead and try and see if you can do a meta-analysis out of those. But in situations where your available literature is very diverse, it is across the board with respect to type of studies and type of literature that is present. That is when you look at a narrative review. So in short, a narrative review, when you have different types of literature spread all across. There is a systematic review where you have a huge chunk of prospective studies and a huge chunk of randomized trials with very good inclusion and exclusion criteria, which can be used for a systematic reviewing purpose.
Do you use the Prisma flowchart guidelines for all your reviews?
I try to. I would not say that each and every time we are successful, but those are some guidelines which I think for starters, for beginners, is a very good starting point to try and see if you can align your article towards those guidelines. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Moving to the next scenario for Dr. Sabyasachi Sengupta, sir, by Ayushi. Ayushi, if you can see the screen.
Yes. So coming back to the world of AI, suppose you are writing a review article on fibrin glue for pterygium surgeries. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what would be your approach towards the review of literature, and how would you like to state it in the paper if you are using AI for your review? Like, do you mention that you use the AI software, and which AI based application do you prefer for carrying out your review? Like, do you use ChatGPT or Julius AI?
So, so let me address one by one. First question is, what would your systematic approach towards review of literature, and how would you like to state it in the paper? And so I would look at the journal's, you know, author guidelines, and see what they accept and what they don't accept, and and how they want us to state it. So I would definitely say that I have used this interface, and so for systematic reviews I use the AS review, like I said. So like in the previous question, when you have like 4,000 papers, you would download all of those into your AS review. I mean, the name and the title and the abstract, and then you would sort of, it's like you right swipe or you left swipe. If you want it, you swipe one way. If you don't want it, you swipe the other way. And then that software learns, and then it will keep showing you papers which almost all of them you will swipe in one direction, that is, I want it. Right? So you can train it, and then it's pretty simple. So but still, going through 4,000 papers, you will not need to go through so many papers. So then I'll say that I did it. I recognized the papers I want to include based on AS review, and then and then I use, say so say size space or something like that, to further chart, to further bring it down into sort of zoom into the number of papers that I wanted. And then I extracted the data using, say, Elicit or something like that. And then I wrote the paper using the ChatGPT, or whatever that you are using. So different phases, so everyone watching needs to understand that there are so many different phases where you zoom in on the papers, then you extract data out of the papers that you zoom in, and then you sort of formulate the whole write-up. So if I'm using multiple softwares, I would actually want to disclose some of them, or maybe all of them. And how I would want to disclose it is based on what the journal's instruction to authors says. And that they are pretty standardized nowadays in most journals, including Elsevier and Sage and Walter's Close. So, they want you to disclose that you used it. So I will disclose that I used these different softwares to, like I said, for this step, I use this software. For this step, I use this software. It's important to disclose it, right? And, that's not taking away your effort, but it's showing that you did use these, right? So then other questions are, which AI-based application do you prefer for carrying out literature search? I've already said it, so different ones for different things, right? So again, I'll repeat, so for zooming in on the papers, I'll use AS Review, which is a Python-based software. So you need to, install Python and then use it, and it's not very difficult at all. You need the Zotero plugin in between. For then, looking at each paper and summarizing all of that, I use size space. Then to extract data from each paper, I use Elicit. And then to actually analyze and do a meta-analysis, I would use Julius. And so I would use these different ones. ChatGPT is something that I don't use for writing papers. because like I said, it's very general. So I use free paid versions, and currently the one that I use is the 3.5 mini or the 4.5, which is now the latest one. And that's equipped for critical thinking. Like we know it doesn't think, but actually it does now. So if at all I use ChatGPT, I'll use the 4.5 version and the 3.5 mini version for systematic reviews particularly, and maybe getting ideas on what meta-analysis I could do in terms of outcome measures and all of that. But so these are the different phases that I would use different softwares for.
Right. I actually have a question for Dr. Saji sir and Vanati ma'am both. That when we are, because I was trying this yesterday and I was trying to see whether it works or not. So what I tried to do was I gave a topic for review articles. I don't use AI softwares as explicitly as Sabyasachi sir has explained. So I consider myself very old school about it. So I tried to give a prompt for the review articles. The interesting part was that the articles that it gave me, those articles don't even exist. It has kind of hallucinated or made up those articles. And I was like, interesting. So what it did was it took parts and names of from everywhere and it gave sort of a new article. And that can be a little scary if you're not cross-checking it. And I also feel a part of me that the plagiarism is going to probably increase when you're using AI, because technically now you are copy pasting the information from your paper and putting it out there. So it becomes a part of the stock that AI has. So does it increase the plagiarism as such also? Like, have you all seen the plagiarism rates increase?
You want me to answer that first?
Um, it's an open question for you and Dr. Vanity ma'am or Vivek
Okay,
sir.
so basically, so what you're doing is you did not name the software, you did not name the version, you did not name whether it's a paid or the free version. So, this is what was happening with me, say, in February 2024. Get the perspective of like 400 days back, right? So, like you said, you're old school, but make sure that you're not getting outdated.
Interesting.
You need to name it. So that's what all the speakers who are debating were saying, that if you don't use it, you will be replaced by someone who does use it. There's an
Right.
absolute, there's like the real world example of what. The other thing is, something called, the real buzzword is prompt engineering. How good is your prompt? And so there are lectures on the Cochrane website. You can go to the Cochrane website and now even enroll for their ongoing series on use of AI for different Cochrane activities. So that's a 6 lecture series, out of which 3 are over. And it is all, we know Cochrane is about literature review and systematic reviews and meta-analysis, right? So if Cochrane is carrying out a whole series on this, 6 lectures, out of which 3 are done, 3 open, and you can go and enroll for yourselves, and they're about an hour and a half. So Cochrane is giving you these tips of how to use. So I learned about Elicit from Cochrane in January, and then I went and as soon as I saw it, it's like, oh, this is amazing. So I went and got the paid version of it, right? So I spent a lot of money on some of these, but what you're saying will not happen and cannot happen. You can't allow it to happen, right? That will only happen with ChatGPT. That's it. So that's what I said. I don't use ChatGPT for writing, and it's not a specialized AI. So if you tell me to do a corneal transplant, like, man, it's like impossible for me now at this stage after having done like 5,000 retina surgeries and not even looking at the slit lamp, maybe directly looking at the indirect and saying, oh, I can't see the macula, maybe something is wrong with the cornea. And then I look at the slit lamp, something like that. So that's the analogy, right? So telling ChatGPT to do this is not fair on ChatGPT and on us. So you need to go into specialized versions, understand which is the right one for which step, and then go ahead and do it. You will not face this at all. For the last 6 months, I haven't faced it at all. So much so that I have come to adopt these, and really, you can actually. So I'm driving to Pune, and I'm chatting with the software and saying, oh, I think it's like this, and it says, oh, I don't think it's that way. And so I've done a literature review in like 3 hours on my drive to Pune. I'm driving, and I'm actually conversing, and I'm like, getting a lot of ideas. So that's where we are literally. So So all these hallucinations, all these are very much things of the past.
It's like Sabyasachi
Yeah.
sir is saying, Rolika, you need to grow up now.
No, you need to
In a
catch up,
sense.
not
Catch
grow up, catch up.
up.
So it's like pull-ups and push-ups. You need to do those now with your
Yeah.
AI.
Yes. And Bharati ma'am, what's your take
I
on
think,
this?
yeah, and I think most of us need to teach ourselves how to utilize AI to the kind of job we wanted to do for us. And I am still a person who I think I have a long way to go into learning a lot about AI. But I see a lot of my assistant editors who are all masters in it by now, because probably they have better aptitudes than what I have in learning AI right now. But then, yes, if you don't, you're going to be left behind. You're running a race where you have no intentions of running it well. So, and I did listen to Sabyasachi's wonderful, I think, in AIOS, his wonderful lecture series on how you can use AI to help you in the various tasks of research writing. So Ari rightly put it, right? Don't let AI do all your job. See, it's your assistant, but you also need to train your assistant to the way you want it to work, and you are the master. So you probably need to give it the final shape, and it is important for every aspect of the research writing, starting from the ROL, starting from writing your introduction, starting from the approach to your research question, looking at how you're going to use AI to help you frame your research, and look at those articles which are going to be of particular importance. For example, I think we went in and asked the AI thing, what's the impact factor of Indian Journal of Ophthalmology? And I jumped with joy when it said 3.3 for 2024. That was way ahead of what 2024 actually was impact factor. So the way it was computing was a little different from the way Clarivate was actually computing, and we are still assessing the previous term's impact factor. Our terms is still another year to go before our terms will start. So you should know how you need to interpret the results of the AI.
Right. Oh, that's absolutely true. And I think all of you have given such wonderful pointers. And Vivek, so any last, inputs from you before we call it a day? What would you
I
like to
think
say?
Sunny has brought out a very good point. We need to catch up. I think all of us are on this at different points. I think about a year back, I was pretty resistant about even trying to understand what all of this is. But then you realize you are surrounded by a generation who is into this, and they are way ahead into this. So it just becomes natural that we learn this. So that there are tasks which we can allocate to AI, and maybe as humans we move to certain other tasks. We start utilizing our time well, and overall the productivity increases. So I think that is the crux word in any walk of life.
I think it's time to take out some time for family while AI does a little bit of research work in the background, and so that everybody you have 24 hours a day. They don't need to spend all the 24 hours working. You can have an assistant take care of the research part too. If that's the essence, I think I'll catch up, Dr. Sabyasachi sir, for sure. I'll try my best.
I have a question before you end, please. So,
Sure.
Singta, sir, you've mentioned so many, softwares or what AI, systems, Julius, and so many. So, have we reached a point where, like, all these are now part of certain institutes, and they should be taking up, paid packages for these, to help their students in mass numbers? Because if somebody who's so invested as you can definitely be, investing that amount of money, but I'm just trying to understand how much of a investment that is monetarily speaking, understanding how to use it and then using the paid versions for not one, but like 6, 7 AIs that you've mentioned. I'm just trying to understand, are there any institutional packages or any other institutions using them as those kind of packages and giving access to all their faculty and students, or no, it is just like starting up right now?
So I think there are institutional packages for all of these AIs, and so for some of these, like I mentioned, an annual package is like 3,800, like for the whole year. Otherwise, you will be allowed like say 15 prompts a day. I mean, 15 questions a day, and that is also pretty good. I mean, it's like so, and all of them have like monthly packages. So say you're doing a thesis or something, you can take like a monthly package for 2 or 3 important ones, and that will not cost you. It will cost you anywhere between 7 to 10,000 or something like that. But then if you go to a statistician and you pay them far more than this, who's doing a good job and or similar to what I mentioned, and then you will not make any head or tail of what that output comes out from, and then you won't know what questions to ask and all that, right? So it makes sense for us on an individual level to experiment with some of these and see what suits us and our style and how we can adapt, and then go for the paid versions, because the free versions are almost 70-80% of where they need to be, except ChatGPT. There's a huge difference between ChatGPT and the paid and the non-paid versions. But for all of these specialized AIs, they'll give you enough on a daily basis for you to, every 24 hours it refreshes. So you can look at some of these and, it's very useful to do these things. And it is not monetarily, it is not prohibitive as such. So I would spend like 10,000 a month. So on a year, I'm spending like more than 1 lakh rupee. But then the productivity that I'm getting is like mind blowing. So therefore, it makes sense. But then because I'm doing volumes and all of those things, so that's entirely different. But like I said, for a month, it makes sense for all of us to try and see which one of these I would want to use, and then go ahead.
Well, if it's
Yeah,
like
so give
when
it a
if we're busy and we want somebody to cook for food for us, we might as well be busy and have certain things ready before we get on to it. It's like somebody can chop vegetables when you start cooking, so somebody can keep the essence ready when you start writing the paper. If I would say that
true,
that's the way of
true,
looking.
true. No, that is
Academic
absolutely how
speaking.
it is. That is the way to look at it. So give it a try. I think, don't be afraid of it. Give it a try and see what works and what doesn't work.
Thank you, everyone, for sparing your time. And it's interesting that this is the first session where we have gone above our time, but I'm happy that we did because it's a very interesting inputs that we have received from the experts in our field and from our debaters as well. And I really like how the debaters have complemented their debates, and that's the essence of it. We did have Beauty with Brains, who have addressed the debates today. Thank you, everyone, for the special day, and we will see you again for the 5th module. Thank you, everyone. Have a very good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
All right. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manjula ji.
Thank you, Doctor. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Yeah, good night.